No, your eyes are not deceiving you, and yes, you saw the title right. I was a part of this effort to raise $1 million for charity, and I'm going to tell you the story, how I did it, and how you can do the same. Hi everyone, my name is Josh Tseng. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about what it's like to live with blindness. So today we're going to have a bit of a story time episode where I talk about what I mentioned earlier, which was the time I was involved in a charity fundraising effort that nearly raised $1 million, $960,000 to be exact. So this is going to be a bit of a longer one, and I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to explain to you how much money I was able to contribute to this effort and what my exact contributions were. And then we're going to go into some of the more minor details and what you can take away from my story. Stick to the end of this video because trust me, there is a twist in this story that you will never be able to guess. And I'm not being dramatic, it really is worth it, so stick to the end. And finally, one more thing before we begin, I just want to put this disclaimer up here before we start. My intention for making this video is not to brag or talk about how great I am. I'm prepared for people to misinterpret my intentions, and honestly, I've just accepted that. And you know, maybe it's my fault for telling this story poorly, and maybe it'll come across that way. But trust me when I tell you, and all I can tell you is that I'm telling this story for a very particular reason. And that reason is I want to show you what's really possible. I want to show you and use my story to show you all the wonderful ways we can help people with disabilities or any cause we really care about. We just have to have the right story and the right dream and take advantage of the right opportunities when they present themselves to us. The message that I'm trying to deliver is really simple, but I think can be really meaningful for a lot of people, and maybe that person is you. Because I talk to a lot of people who have causes that they really care about, but they don't know how they can make a positive impact, or they don't know where to start. I hear people tell me things like, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough talent, I don't have any resources, and I really want to make a difference, but maybe now's not the right time. And I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but sometimes when I hear people tell me things like that, quite frankly, I want to ask them, why the hell not? In my opinion, you don't have to be a millionaire or a politician or someone in power to make a difference to your society today. There's plenty of meaningful things that you can do. And when this situation happened to me, I was just a student with no money. I still don't have money. But, maybe my story can inspire you to take some kind of action this year. Take some action today. So let's begin with talking about the event that I was a part of and how much money I was able to raise for them. So to give a bit of context, the fundraiser that I was a part of aimed to raise money for two key organizations. There was IC2 Prephouse and there was the Mediacorp Enable Fund. IC2 Prephouse is a charity that's local to where I am, which is Singapore, and they focus on teaching students and young children who have vision impairments or blindness. Specifically, what IC2 Prephouse teaches them are methods to use assistive technology and how to use sort of daily living methods to cope with their daily life. IC2 Prephouse was actually a really important charity early on when I lost my eyesight at the age of about 16. They really helped teach me how to use the screen reader and many other things that I use till this day. So honestly, without them, I wouldn't really be here today. And the second organization, the Mediacorp Enable Fund, which was previously called the Today Enable Fund. And it's actually an initiative set up as a collaboration between a local media and news company and a politician in Singapore. And specifically, the politician who was involved is our Emeritus Senior Minister of Singapore, Goh Chok Tong, who was actually one of Singapore's past Prime Ministers. A fun fact, he's actually the only ex-Prime Minister of Singapore who's still alive today. And so what the Mediacorp Enable Fund does is it uses the money that it raises from donations to help people with disabilities attain independence, learn new skills, and achieve their dreams. So one of the things that they use their money for example, is what's called transition programs, which help people with disabilities learn sort of essential daily living skills and also learn new skills that can help them in learning and working. And so combined, these two organizations were trying to raise money to help people with disabilities in the ways that I just described. And actually the target was about $1 million if I remember correctly. It's been quite a while. But unfortunately they fell a little bit short, which was $960,000. So you know, like, of course I wish that they could have raised more for obvious reasons, but honestly it's still damn impressive. I'm still really impressed that we were able to reach that milestone. And so how much was I able to raise? Well, out of the $960,000 which was raised that night, $23,000 came from my contributions. Honestly, it's one of the things that I'm still the most proud of till this day. And I say that even though I know my contribution was only a small drop in the bucket compared to the massive amount of money, almost $1 million, which was raised that night. But some of you who have been paying attention would remember that I said earlier that I was a student with no money to give. So where on earth did I get the $23,000 which I contributed to this fund? You know, where did it come from? So that night, the money raised from the combined donation drive came from 3 primary sources. One was direct donations, the other was table sales to diners who wanted to dine in for the gala dinner, and the last method for raising money was through an auction, and that's where I came in. And so this is an example of a wire sculpture that I've made in the past. This is an epiphyte that is clinging to the rock. It's a wire sculpture plant. And on the screen, I'm going to be showing more examples of wire sculptures that I've made in the past. I'm entirely self-taught, and I don't really mean to say that as a particularly good thing. I'm really rough around the edges, you know, I'm not perfect. And I didn't go to art school or anything, I just learned as I went along and experimented along the way. And so, like, to put it plainly, I'm an amateur, but there is actually a blind artist also in Singapore who has made an entire career out of making wire sculptures, and he is a legit professional. So he went to art school, he's a professional artist, and I did not go to art school. For those of you who don't know, I studied IT and marketing, and I'm definitely not a professional artist. But I think what I'm good enough at doing is making shapes, especially shapes of the human body. And so when IC2 Prephouse, approached me and asked me to make a wire sculpture for them as part of their fundraising auction, I was honestly a little bit intimidated, but I thought I was good enough to give it a shot and at least try and see where it goes. This on the screen right now is a picture of the sculpture that I ended up designing for them. Basically, the scene that is being depicted in the art piece is the classic biblical tale of David versus Goliath in a sense. And one fun fact about this piece is actually the final concept that I settled on was a bit of an accident. And so what I was doing was I was trying to build a human shape, just experimenting and seeing what kind of designs I could come up with based on human shapes. And what ended up happening was I accidentally made the first prototype way too big. But then I was looking at it thinking, it would be a bit of a waste if I just, threw it away and started all over again. But I had a bit of an aha moment when I realized that I could potentially depict the scene of, the David versus Goliath battle and use that to demonstrate the way that people with disabilities often feel. So one thing about people with disabilities or, anyone from any kind of marginalized community is we often feel like the odds are just, stacked against us. The world wasn't built for people like us, and so it's us against the world. When I came up with this concept, this story, I just felt like it felt right, It was simple, it was effective, and it was achievable given my limited time, talent, and resources. And so what I did was I created the smaller human figure, the David, to accompany the big human figure that I made by accident, the Goliath. What I did was, I just made the two of them, I posed them appropriately, and I put them on a wooden base that was inserted into an acrylic case. So on the day itself, when the auction finally came, we told the audience about the story behind the piece. We told them my story and how charities like IC2 Prephouse have changed my life with the services that they're able to provide to people like me. We made them feel something. And so when the piece finally went up for auction, the bids started coming in and it quickly ran past the baseline price of $1,000. So it went up to $5,000, it went up to $6,000, it went up to $10,000. The final bid was $13,000 and I felt absolutely incredible. I still can remember the chill that went down my spine. It felt great. But you would also remember, if you've been paying attention, that I said that we raised $23,000 earlier from my contribution. So, while it's great that it raised $13,000, where did the rest of the money come from? Because the thing is, the story doesn't end there. What ended up happening was the person who won the original bid decided to relinquish his ownership of the piece, donate the $13,000 directly to the charity, and let the piece be auctioned on again. When I finally heard the MC announce that after they had that brief back and forth discussing the terms, that adrenaline rush was nothing like I have ever experienced before in my life. So long story short, the second round of bidding went by, and the second bidder, the final person who got the piece in the end, put down $10,000 for my one single wire art sculpture. And so that brought my total contribution to that fundraiser up to $23,000, which is slightly under 2.4% of the entire amount that was raised that night. It landed in the news. I had a very brief interview talking about my reaction to what happened, and honestly, when I went home, I was in a bit of a state of shock. But okay, let's come back down to earth, right? Like I said, I'm not telling you this story to brag or to talk about how great I am. I only played a small part in the entire effort. Obviously, the rest of the $900,000 plus had to come from somewhere. And quite frankly, I think we were quite fortunate at the overwhelmingly positive response that we got from the story that we were telling and the art piece itself. But this story is meant to demonstrate to you one thing. I'm not a professional artist. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not in any kind of major position of power. I was just some student with no money who was asked by a charity to make a wire sculpture, and we were just hoping that it would sell for some amount of money. Quite frankly, to whoever's watching this, I'm just like you, if not just a little bit poorer than you are. Like, trust me, I'm just graduating from school. I don't really have that much money. But I think this is something most people my age, or even, people much older than me, would have never dreamed that they would be able to do. And quite honestly, before this experience, I would have never thought that I'll be able to do this too. But it really is possible. And so what we can take away from my story today is that if there's something that really means a lot to you, if there's a cause that you care about, if there's a dream that you want to achieve, there's many ways for you to figure out how to do it and make it happen. Explore some options that are different. Engage with the community that you want to help and, get to understand their needs a bit better. Hear their story. Tell their story. Tell your story. You are powerful because you have a voice. If you have plans to give back to charity or your community in some way this year, let us know in the comments. It could be campaigning, it could be volunteering, it could be participating in some events. It doesn't matter. Just tell us, let us know. Let's build a conversation in the comments. One thing I'm hoping is that maybe this video gets shared around. If you think that someone could benefit from this video, share it with them. And let's get a conversation going in the comments. Let's see if we can help one another. And by the way, I respond to every single comment that I get nowadays. So if you think that there's some way I can help you, or you want to bounce an idea off me, or there's something that you want to say, let me know. And I'm also contactable in many different places. For example, some good places are LinkedIn, Twitter, and my business email, which you can find on my channel's About page. Or maybe if your comment is just so interesting, maybe I'll find you and reach out to you. Let's make something happen. And like I said earlier, if you know someone who you think could benefit from this video, share it with them, and hopefully my message can be shared around. That's all I have for you today, so thank you so much for watching. Join me next time when I talk about what it's like to live with blindness with moi, and I'll see you soon. Bye!